So we're just going to do a short practice. Most of the TV poses that I've filmed are relatively gentle, don't really involve very much movement. So I wanted to just set up one little short practice. I'll add to these as we go over the next couple of days and weeks. But this is something that's just a little bit more work. Again, not a particularly strong or challenging class for those of you who have done some yoga before. But just, you know, if we haven't practiced this for a while, it can be a little bit more challenging than we'd like to remember. So a few sun salutations, a couple of lunges, a couple of twists, that sort of thing. So we'll just start off in a comfortable seated position. And if you're not comfortable sitting flat on the floor, you can use a bolster. I always, even when I'm still, when I'm sitting cross-legged, like a little bit of something underneath. Sit up tall, shoulders over the hips, crown of the head pressing up towards the ceiling, shoulders relaxed. And maybe just close your eyes or drop your gaze for a moment. And we'll just take a minute or two to check in with the breath. So start just observing your breath without taking any control of it. Watching the sort of natural rhythm and mechanics of the breath as the air goes through the nostrils, down the back of the throat, into the lungs. Maybe noticing the chest and the bellies rise and fall as you breathe. And I always like to start a class with almost what I call it inner sense, checking in with your inner sense of self. So just how you're feeling, energy levels, emotionally, mentally, just generally physically, if you're feeling achy, observing without any judgment and just noticing. And then begin to take some control of your breath. Nice long inhales and exhales. If you struggle with what that means, try and breathe in for the count of say 4 or 5 or 6 and breathe out for the same count. So take a nice inhale and a nice long exhale and keep that pattern going. Initiate the breath, what feels like the belly button region, and when you inhale, it's almost as if you feel the air pressing down into the pubic bone, even though it's not. But that's just the belly moving. You breathe right up into your collarbones. You breathe into the sides, let the ribs and the intercostal muscles move out and in as you breathe. And try to direct some of the breath into the back body. And then keeping that breath going, we're just going to do a little twist where we are. So with our legs crossed, we're going to take a twist to the right. Use your hands, left hand on the knee, right hand behind you, to help lift and lengthen the spine. And exhaling to breathe and look over, to breathe out and breathe out, to breathe out and look over your back shoulder. Keep the breath going. And then come back to center. And we change for the other side. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, twist. Keep breathing. Keep length in the spine. Keep the shoulders relaxed away from the ear. Keep the lower belly drawn in. And then come back to the front. And then we come into a little bit of a squat. So this is just so that we can come up to standing. So a little bit of a squat. And then into an easy forward bend. So keep the knees bent and just let the upper body hang. So you're trying to get your belly as close to your thighs as you can. Maybe clasp the elbows and just hang. Maybe you like to do a little bit of a movement.
And then bring your hands back to the floor or to your shins. Start to straighten the legs and come into a full forward bend, Uttanasana. And then soften the legs again. And you can do one of two things. If you're uncomfortable in the back area, maybe you just want to hinge up to standing from the hips, or if you like the feeling, you can start to roll up one vertebra at a time and come up to full standing. So unfortunately my camera and room size is not ideal for this, but for those of you who've been to my classes, we've done these sun salutations a few times before, so I'm just going to talk you through them. If you're new to this, you haven't been to any of my classes, follow along as best you can. We stand towards the front of the mat. I'm a little bit further back because of my room constrictions. Feet together, and then we inhale, arms up, join the palms, look up. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, look up, lengthen your spine. So if you can't reach the floor, you can put your hands on your shin and help lift, lengthen your spine. Exhale, bend the knees, plant your hands, step back to a plank position, and we're going to lower to Chaturanga, Dandasana. So this is the four-limbed staff pose. If you need to drop your knees, you can drop your knees. Otherwise, we just exhale to the low push-up position. Inhale to upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. And we hold this for a couple of breaths. So while you're here, spread your fingers, hands are shoulder width apart, really press into your hands to try and get the sitting bones up to the ceiling. If you need to bend your knees, bend your knees. Otherwise, if you can, we're working towards straight legs, and the head just hangs between the arms, gazing towards your navel. Good. Look up. We're going to inhale and step the feet forwards towards the hands again. If you need to bring your hands to your shins, do that. Look up, lengthen the spine. We're lengthening from, looking up from the sternum, so not just the head cranking up. Try and lift up the chest. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale up to standing. Arms up, look up. And exhale, hands down. I'm going to do that 2 more times. So again, not a massively onerous and challenging practice. We're just going to warm ourselves up a little bit. So inhale, arms up, look up, palms are joined, you can't see in the video. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, look up, lengthen your spine. Exhale, feet back to plank and lower to Chaturanga Dandasana. If you need to drop your knees, drop your knees. Inhale to upward facing dog. Notice my thighs are not touching the floor. So they come close, but the thighs are off the floor. Looking up. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. And breathe. So again, spread the fingers, press into the whole hand. Try and make your side body as long as you can. And then you're also trying to make the front body as long as you can. So it's not just about stretching the back body. Try get into the front body as well. Kneecaps are pulled up. That means your quads on the front of your thighs are engaged. And then look up. On an inhale, feet forwards, look up, lengthen your spine. So again, shins under the hands if you need to help create that length in the front body. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, up to standing, arms up, palms joined, look up, and exhale, hands at your sides. We're going to do that one more time. Inhale, arms up, Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, look up, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step back and lower to chaturanga. If you have to go all the way to the floor, you can also do that. And if you're on the floor, instead of going into an up dog, you go into a little cobra. And then it's a nice long slow exhale to find your way back to downward facing dog. Hold the pose, keep the breath going. Try and make it nice, long, slow, easy breaths. Draw in the lower stomach. Good. Look up. This time I want you to try and step your right foot forward between your hands. You might need some help with your hands to get it there. The foot comes right between my hands. I come up onto my fingertips because that just gives me a bit more room. The knee is over the ankle, so not forward, not back. Not quite a 90-degree angle in my legs, but working towards it. Keep the back leg strong and straight. And keep breathing. So when I say strong and straight, straighter than you ever thought possible for the back leg. And then plant your hands. Inhale, lift up your hips. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. Look up. On an inhale, bring the left foot forwards between your hands. Same thing, the knee is over the ankle. The legs are really strongly working. So I'm not kind of just collapsing to rest on the front thigh. Keep pressing into both feet to keep some lift and elevation in the upper body. There is contact between the belly and the thigh, but you could lift your hands up if you needed to. Good. Plant the hands, inhale, lift up, exhale, step back. Stretch into a nice downward facing dog for a moment. Then look up. Move your hands closer together so that your thumbs touch in the center of the mat. And then on an inhale, step the right foot forward so that the toes are kind of outside. They're a little bit ahead of the wrists on the right side. And then I'm going to ask you to drop the back knee, point the back toes back. If you need to, you can come onto your fingertips. But what I want you to think about is the thighs are not back there. The hips are not back there. You're trying to sink and draw them to the ground, bending your front knee. This time your knee will go over the ankle in terms of alignment. Try keep that tailbone tucked under. Try and engage your glutes, so those are your butt muscles. And breathe. And then hands flat, tuck the back toes under. Inhale, lift up the hips. Exhale, step back. My thumbs are still joined in the center of my mat. Stretch out momentarily. And then we're going to do the other side. So inhale, left foot forwards. Drop the back knee, uncurl the back toes. Come onto your TP fingers if you need to, fists, wherever you are. And remember, we're trying to drive the hips forward as evenly as we can, so not one way or the other. We're trying to keep some evenness there. And breathe. You can check your back leg. Check that it's not sickling. You want a straight back leg. Relax the teeth in the jaw. And then we're going to plant the hands, curl the back toes under, inhale, lift up, exhale, step back. Check that your hands are still joined. I'm just going to move back a little bit. I'm going to look up, step the right foot back to the same place again, drop the back knee, uncurl the back toes. So for some of you, you might stay in this pose. So basically repeating the one we did before. For others of you, you might be able to come down onto your forearms. If you struggle to do that, you could perhaps put something underneath the forearms. Bolster, blankets, any kind of cushion. And then notice, I want to try and keep that right knee hugging my right shoulder. And breathing. And then if you feel stable here, you could tuck your back toes under and lift up the hips so that your knee is off the floor, your back leg is strong and straight, and you're breathing. If that's too much for you, stick with wherever you're at, whether it's this or whether it's this. But trying to really think about softening in that left hip, the front side. That's where we're trying to stretch at the moment. Notice I'm not bowing, I'm trying to keep the back leg strong and straight. And then drop the back knee. Move the bolster out of the way if you've got one. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. Hands are still joined. Look up and we do the other side. Left foot forwards, drop the back knee and curl the back toes. Sticking with this is if this is already at our absolute most intense. And then if you've got the space to come down onto your forearms, you can use a bolster. If you need to, try and keep the weight fairly evenly distributed, not all into the right arm. You want to be able to press into the left forearm too. And then either staying here with the left knee hugging the left shoulder, or tuck your back toes under and lift up. Straighten the back leg. And breathe. Good. Drop the back knee. You can move the bolster. Hands flat. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, step back. Separate the hands. And let's just do a downward facing dog for a moment. So remember, the hands are spread, the fingers are spread. Arms are straight. Legs are straight if you can get them there. Heels are ultimately working towards the ground, but if that means that it changes your dog so that you're too round, then keep the heels off, bend the knees if you have to stick the bottom out, lift the hips up. Good. And then drop to your knees, and we're going to just do a little twist. So it's a version of thread the needle. So I'm going to do it with my left arm first so that you can see what we're doing. Hands are shoulder width apart, knees are hip width apart. We take the left arm, we slide it under, and we basically keep it straight, come down to resting on your left shoulder and the side of your head. If that doesn't feel good on your neck, adjust the pose until you feel like you're okay to stay there. And then try to keep your hips even, so don't wiggle them around too much. You want to keep them almost as straight as you could, as if you were just on all fours. And then creep the right hand away and stretch. Draw in the lower stomach. Breathe. Bring the right hand back so that you've got it in a position to lift you up. And we change sides. So I'll let you see what it looks like from the other side, but obviously I'll be talking away from the camera, so I'll try and get as much talking as I can done before I go that direction. Check that your hands are hip width apart again. This time it's the right arm that's going to slide under. When you land on the right side of your head and your shoulder, make sure you're comfortable first before taking the weight there, and then we're going to creep the left hand away. So right arm down, creep the left hand forwards, and then just settle and breathe. The lower belly is drawn in. That left arm is actively stretching away from you, so it's not just kind of like, flopped over there. Keep it a pretty active stretch. And then walk the left hand back in, push yourself back up, come back to all fours. And we're going to come to lying on our backs. We're going to do a bridge pose. So have your feet hip width apart. Your heels are pretty close to your sitting bones. There should be a space between your thighs, but when you start to go up into the bridge pose, make sure that they don't start to splay out. You want to try keep them there as if you had a block in between your legs and you were pressing into it, and you can use a block if you want to. The hands come alongside you, and then you start to tuck up, peel up the tailbone, tucking it under, and slowly lifting up one vertebra at a time. Now for some of you this might be your bridge pose, you just hover as high as you can get. For others you might be able to start to lift up and really press into the heels to get the hips up as high as you can. And then slowly exhaling, lower down from the top of your spine, one vertebra at a time, keeping the tailbone tucked under. And letting the hips settle down for a moment. And we're going to go up one more time. Inhale, start to peel up the tailbone, lift up the hips, and again you just go to your comfortable version. If you can, you're going to clasp your hands underneath you, you're going to squeeze the shoulders together, and then you really lift the hips up as high as you can, press into the heels to press your chest towards your face almost, if that makes sense. Squeeze the glutes gently and breathe. And then release the hands and slowly lower down one vertebra at a time. And let the hips come to settle. Hug your knees into your chest. I like to take mine just slightly separated so that the knees come towards the armpits more than centrally. And then keeping the feet where they are, the legs where they are, bring your arms out at shoulder height. You can have them palms down if that helps you, but a palms up is also good. And then we're just going to take a twist. So take a nice inhale, tighten your stomach, and then on an exhale your knees come towards the floor on your right and your gaze goes towards the left. So the knees come down as close to the floor as you can get them, but keep the feet lifted up. And I'm looking towards the camera so you can hear me, but make sure that your gaze is going across the left arm, trying to keep that left shoulder down. So notice my feet aren't on the floor, they're lifted up, knees are coming down. And then inhale, center the head and roll back onto your back. And exhale, the knees go to the left and the gaze comes to the right. So the feet are lifted, knees are coming down. My right shoulder is coming towards the floor. And then tightening the stomach. Inhale, center the head, roll back to the back. And then I'm going to straighten the legs across the floor. Arms come down to your sides, palms up, legs just flop open. And close your eyes for Shavasana. Back of the neck is long, jaw is soft, and everything else just lets go.